Live Oak Nest. I'm glad you're here today. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you how to make a DIY bird nest and then also share with you how I styled it in a spring table centerpiece idea. Okay, so I want to share with you what you need to get started. So I have a grapevine nest, a grapevine wreath, and then I also picked up just a bundle of twigs from the craft store. You could get these outside if you have them around. I'm also going to use some raffia and a couple of little feathers that were also from the craft store, and then a couple of these paper mache eggs. So this grapevine wreath comes in a bundle of 2, and I just left them stacked together to add a little bit of height to the bird nest. And then all of the little stems that you see around the outside, I'm just breaking those off in my bundle and then just kind of sticking them in. I wanted it to look whimsical and kind of wild, and so I like the way that those stems are added around the outside, and I'll show you kind of how I'm doing that in just a minute. But I wanted to secure the grapevine nest onto the wreath, and instead of wiring it together, I just hot glued it together. If you wanted to use some floral wire, you could do that as well, but hot glue I think will do the trick here. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to use some of these little stems and just break them off and then work my way around the grapevine wreath. And I'm not using hot glue, I'm just sticking these in, and they're just kind of locking themselves in there. So this is very simple to do. If you felt like you needed to use a little bit of hot glue, you could, but I have not had any problems with these falling out. So I have all of my little stems and twigs in place, and I'll go back when I'm completely finished and just tuck in a few more. But the next thing I want to do is add the raffia. So this just kind of comes in a big bag, so I just kind of pulled out several strands and then kind of tried to line up a couple of the ends. And I'm actually going to use another piece of raffia to just tie a knot around it to kind of keep it all together. And then from there, you'll see I'm just going to kind of loop my way around the wreath. Okay, so here you can see where I've tied my little knot to hold the raffia together, and now I'm just going to use a little hot glue and put down a little dab and then secure the raffia in place. And then I'm just going to do this a few times around the wreath so that I feel like it's going to stay on there secure, especially if I decide to hang this on the wall. So I'm going to slow it down right here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm simply just taking another piece of raffia, tying it around the bundle so that it kind of locks it all together, and then I'll just do the same thing, put another little piece of a little dab of hot glue to secure the raffia to the grapevine nest. Okay, so once I've made my way all the way around, I'm going to take the next round, and I'm not going to tie raffia around the sections of raffia to secure it with hot glue. I'm just going to bunch it up with my finger and then apply a little hot glue underneath it, because I want to cover up the knots. I just want it to look a little bit more natural, so we're just going to kind of work our way back around and cover it up so it doesn't look so tidy. You want to be careful too not to burn yourself right here. It's easy to do with the hot glue because the raffia is so thin. So you'll see a couple of times, like I grabbed a pair of scissors and used that to kind of hold the raffia down while the glue was drying. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is fill in the center of the wreath. So I'm going to use more raffia as my base layer to do that. So I just took a bundle of the raffia and then gathered it into a circle in my hand and just kind of rolled it up. So kind of like you would, I guess, dough if you're making a cinnamon roll or something like that. So you just want to round it up in a circle. So once I got it in the circle, I decided it needed a little something to help secure it to the grapevine nest. And so I just took a couple of the little twig stems and put hot glue on those and then held them down to the raffia just to kind of help it keep its form just a little bit better. So now I'm ready to just hot glue that in there. So I'm just making sure I can kind of shove it down in there well, and then I'm just going to take my hot glue, put a bead on this little twigs, and then I'm going to push it all down and secure it to the grapevine nest. So now I just kind of want to work on adding different textures and layers to kind of fill everything in. And so I'm using this, it's American moss, and this is some of my favorite stuff to use. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I use it all throughout the year, but I'm going to just layer in a little bit of this in the center of the nest, and again I'm just using hot glue to secure it all down. Okay, so the next element I want to add is some of this sphagnum moss. That's kind of hard to say, but I like the color of this. It's kind of like an olive color, and it has some creams and brown tones in it as well. So I thought this would look nice in the nest. So again, I'm just taking my hot glue gun, pulling off little sections of the moss, and I'm using this dry. It's not wet or anything, and just putting a little hot glue on the back and then sticking it down where I think it looks nice. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add in my feathers. So I love these little feathers that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. They have the little black and white speckled on a couple of the feathers, and I just thought they were so pretty. So I want to use these to add into my nest, and it was just a little package of 3, so I'm going to use all 3 of them and just hot glue them in the nest where I think it looks nice. So one thing I like to do before I hot glue things is to lay them out so that I can kind of get an idea for placement before I glue them in. Okay, so for the speckled eggs, I didn't get that portion videoed, but I painted them solid with Fusion Mineral Paint in raw silk, and then I went back and just stippled on a little bit of the color putty, which is like a warm gray color. And then I just mixed up a little bit of brown acrylic paint that I had on hand, watered it down really well, and used a really stiff paintbrush to kind of splatter on the brown paint so that it gave it all the little speckles. So that is how you make a DIY bird nest. I think this is so pretty, and this is a big statement piece. So I don't know if you can tell, it's bigger than the chargers that I have here on the table, but I think it would look so beautiful hanging up anywhere you would put a wreath. So you could put it on a window frame, an old shutter. It really is just a beautiful piece for spring, and if you like bird nests like I do, then you could leave it out all year long. But I really hope y'all have enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed the spring table centerpiece idea. And if you're new to my channel, I would love if you would consider subscribing, leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. And I will see you again next week for another fun DIY.